All right, Jeff Cowen is in the house. He is the Public Information Officer for the TRPA, and you guys just released this really big report.
Yeah, so last month was the 4-year threshold evaluation.
Okay.
This is the 8th one that TRPA has done under the 1987 regional plan. And so what we do is we collect data and monitoring all the time, all year long, compile it all, because what we're trying to do is measure, okay, the regional plan has policies around like land use, development caps and limits, and a lot of transportation and conservation programs. So how are they working to achieve these specific goals? They're measurable targets. So it's really good news, and then there's some really big highlights, but we also recognize a couple of big things. There's challenges in the basin. We have new impacts coming from things like major wildfires outside of the region that are now coming in and impacting some of our thresholds. And the role of the warming climate in lake clarity and algae and the dangers around aquatic invasive species. So, and then there's also things that we're feeling versus what science is showing or versus what our goals, our measurable targets are. So transportation, visitation, a lot more pressure on some of our recreation corridors. There's big peaks, but there's, it's relatively flat the rest of the year. So this phase is important because what we're doing is we're going to be taking feedback on that threshold evaluation, and we want to know what their priorities are for the basin, what they're seeing, because in June we'll come to our governing board with a set of recommendations around all of those monitoring data points and how the thresholds are doing. But we need to come forward with that so that way we can look at the policies. Are they working for the major things that the basin is going through, other than our already measurable targets?
So let's talk about some of these bigger challenges, such as these extreme wildfires that we're starting to have. Way too many people in the basin on red flag days in the summer. Like, how do you guys combat some of these challenges? What are you doing?
It's always leaning into partnerships. I hate to say it because we say it a lot, but the reason that collaboration and partnership is so key in the basin is because there's 5 jurisdictions. There are 2 states. There's 80% of the land in the basin is national forest. There's another 10% is public land, state lands. And then you have all these little organizations around the lake that are managing beaches, things like that. We have to work together. There's a lot of progress being made, but in order to address those challenges in the future, it's still the same thing. We really have to keep collaborating and coordinating. So working with the fire districts, working with law enforcement, working with the emergency management agencies and our transportation agencies to say, how can we take this corridor, get cars off the road, create pullouts for emergency evacuation, get at satellite parking, transit, and then how do we get people without a car out of the basin using lots of things, public school buses and things like that. So there's work to do. We're on board with all of it, but that isn't something that TRPA leads or that we can lead. It wasn't something that we were given as part of our role. So
if people are watching this and they want to get involved, these are issues that are really important to them, what can they do? How can they help you guys out?
So trpa.gov, watch for the threshold evaluation report, links there. There's a feedback form. Let us know what your priorities are, but please try to review what is going right. Because there are things that are very important to recognize about stream restoration and a lot of the other things that are going right, because that's going to tell us how we can address those other challenges.
Yeah, you guys, there's been great advances with the invasive species. We identified a new one last year. You've been able to keep it contained to one part of the lake. I was just talking to more this morning during the weather report because it's getting so warm. People might be getting on their stand-up paddles. They need to know the new protocols about what to do with those stand-up paddles and not, move these things around the lake. So anyway, we could talk about this all day. I got to wrap this up, unfortunately. But remind people one more time of the website and where they can find out more information about this report.
trpa.gov, and look for the threshold evaluation report.
Okay, and then get some feedback.
There's a feedback form right there.
Before June.
Yes, through May.
Through May. All right, well, there it is, you guys. Thank you so much, Jeff Cowen, for coming in. Appreciate you. Here's TRPA.